But Eric, I'd be remiss if I didn't follow up on something you said earlier. Hulk felt like he deserved and was owed equity in the WWF. I don't know if you realize what you said there, but we've never actually officially heard that. Um, do you remember having conversations with Hulk about him not being an equity partner in the WWF and his disappointment about Vince's, I guess, denial of that offer?
Many times. I'm surprised that hasn't been discussed more. I mean, I didn't get the impression it was a secret from anybody. Yeah, I heard that. It's not like he didn't dwell on it, but it certainly came up, and I don't even know how many conversations. I mean, it stands to reason. It's the wrestling business. Hulk was its biggest star. We saw what was happening. Hulk was everywhere. If there would have been no Hulk Hogan and Vince would have been out there promoting WWF in the same thing that he had been promoting, in the same way he had been promoting it, it would have been exactly the way it was, maybe a little bigger, a little better. But the fact that, Vince shifted gears and all of the promotional weight ended up on Hulk Hogan's shoulders, you would have to be kind of simple to not, if you're the talent, if you're the wrestler, if you're the brand that people are paying for, it would be human nature to go, hey, dude, we're doing this together. Maybe not 50-50, but, what do you think? We're kind of in it together. Makes sense. That was the basis of it, I think. And it just, Vince wasn't going to let it happen. We never got into why or, what Hulk thought, prevented that, Vince from wanting to do that. We never discussed that, but it was a, kind of a pretty matter of fact comment that I've heard many, many times in conversation.
I know you weren't there, so you would just be trying to guess based on what Mr. Balea told you, but what time frame do you think that was?
I got again, this is not historical data that I'm presenting,
Right.
Facts. So it's just check yourself. Guessing whatever period of time when Hulk moved up to Connecticut, because that was kind of like, it's part. It was one more thing that led him to believe that was possible, that Vince would be open to it. I don't know, I wasn't there, but it seems like when I heard this story, it was within the context of Hulk actually physically moving to Florida, which if you knew Hulk Hogan, that's a big commitment. Leaving Florida, he loved Florida. He loved the beach. He didn't like Connecticut at all for all of the same reasons he loved the beach in Florida. So, but he did it because my understanding is he was hoping for or believing that there was an opportunity for him to end up having some equity in WWF.
Man, you want to talk about a major what if? If Vince grants him equity in the company, he would have probably had clauses in there that, it just wouldn't have made any sense, especially if he had equity, to go to a competitor like WCW. Like, if Vince had given him equity, WCW and Nitro, and it could all look a lot differently, right?
Yeah, and that's a whole different rabbit hole, right? In so many different ways. And again, I want to make it really clear here because I've seen, especially over the last week, what happens when I tell a story like that, which is fairly, it's not a complex story, but it's a story in context. People will take little pieces of a story and then regurgitate it in their whatever on their platform to make it sound like I said something completely different. So, and there's nothing I'm going to do to change that because people are low life, low hanging fruit, bottom feeding pieces of shit, and they're going to do what they're going to do. But at least for my audience that will listen to those show, I'm telling you something that I remember talking about, hearing about over the past, 25, 30 years. Doesn't mean it's a hard, cold, provable fact in a court of law. Doesn't mean that, it's complete nonsense and never happened. It's somewhere in the middle of all that, right? It's Hulk sharing with me his disappointment whenever we talk about his relationship with Vince McMahon. And again, I want to make that very clear. It wasn't bitter, it wasn't resentful. It was almost respectful, because Hulk did respect that Vince was protecting his family and his brand. I mean, he didn't like it, but he kind of, later in life especially, yeah, he's a tough son of a bitch. Good luck negotiating with him. That was the context in which these conversations come up. So let's please not blow it up any bigger than that.
Dustin B is with us here live, and he says it's like Phil Jackson and Michael Jordan, Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. Those are the sports equivalents, he thinks, of Vince McMahon and Hulk Hogan. I'll be honest, I never really put much thought into that until several years ago. I saw an interview with Stephanie McMahon, and she sort of alluded to the fact that while everyone was celebrating Hulk Hogan, she wanted to be in defense of her dad and say, well, hey, it was my dad who did some of that too. So I do think some of that comes down to ego. And with all due respect, I think some of that existed between Dusty Rhodes as the booker and Ric Flair as the top star of Jim Crockett Promotions. I think that same thing, that dynamic exists. I mean, I hate for me to say it this way, but that just feels like ego more than anything else. Is
Of
it not,
course,
Eric?
it's ego.
Yeah.
Well, it's ego, and in Vince's case, it was business. I mean, Vince had a very he was a control. He was not giving up. He was not going to cede control to anybody. We saw that right up until recently. The way he's handled his business, he just does. He fights, and he wants control. I don't think Vince does play well with others. Yeah, leave it alone.
Well, let's talk about the whole equity piece, because you mentioned that Hulk felt like he should have had equity in the WWE, and I could see why and again, I don't mean for this to sound the way it probably comes off, but from a greed standpoint, I could see why you wouldn't want to give up shares and percentages. I get it. But I also see the strategic partnership value of making sure, hey, he's never going to go anywhere. Now, in fairness, WCW was not turning a profit. All the territories were dead. Vince probably never imagined this guy who, as Hulk used to say, used to sell meat out of the back of a truck, was going to kick his ass for Ted Turner. Nobody saw that coming. So I get that. But I do want to ask, when you're luring Hogan over to WCW and you're trying to recruit him and get him back in the game, because I think he probably felt like wrestling was in his rearview mirror. I'm just going to do Hollywood stuff now. Did the equity conversation come up with regards to WCW at any point?
No, but I think Hulk already controlled his brand, right? So it wasn't, the brand came with him, all the marks, the IP, and everything, came with him. Or he had to work through some of that with Marvel when he actually first got to WCW. Before he signed on the dotted line, he had to close up some open-ended copyright trademark issues with regard to using Hulk Hogan, because Marvel also had a claim. So they negotiated it. Hulk got the rights to use it the way we see it today. WWE is using it based on the rights that Hulk negotiated, Henry Holmes negotiated with Marvel, so that when Hulk Hogan landed in WCW, he brought complete trademark with him, all the marks and the IP with him. So I don't, and we were a publicly held company, so it's not quite the same thing, but no, it never came up. And I think Hulk by that time was looking at WCW as like a really high paying part-time gig that allowed him to continue doing more movies and TV commercials. He was doing a syndicated television series with the producers of Baywatch when I met him. And there was a lot of money in that. So that's where Hulk's head was at in terms of where he was going to spend the majority of his time and money. And wrestling was just like a good support system, not only financially, obviously $2 million a year for 4 pay-per-views. It's a nice part-time gig if you can get it, right? But it also gave him a platform, that being Turner Broadcasting, with TNT, TBS, New Line Cinema, all that. So it was more of a, hey, I'm just going to go join the team and see how it benefits me, as opposed to I'm going to build this company.
Don't we all love summer vacation, relaxing, laying out by the pool, barbecues, hitting the beach, doing, well, nothing? Well, how about a summer vacation from your house payments? With SaveWithConrad.com, you can do just that. Reduce your monthly payments by making the equity you built up in your home work for you. You can roll together those high interest rate credit cards into one lower monthly payment, and perhaps access some of that newfound equity to turn your house into your dream home with no money out of pocket. And how about this? You get to skip your next 2 house payments. Go right now to SaveWithConrad.com. Let my team run the numbers for you for free. There's no obligation, and if we can't help you save some cash, we won't waste your time. And did I mention we're offering a 3-year guarantee right now? That's right. That means if at any point interest rates improve over the next 3 years, you get a free refi. That's right. No new lender fees from us. So you get to save money now without wasting money later when the rates improve on a whole second set of closing costs. Why not go to SaveWithConrad.com and get a guarantee? Save money now and save money later with your friend in the mortgage business. That's me, Conrad Thompson at SaveWithConrad.com. Shoot me an email at Conrad@SaveWithConrad.com. Give us a call at 888-425-0105 or get yourself a quick quote. Even talk to a live person right now at SaveWithConrad.com. NMLS number 2129, equal housing lender. Take a summer vacation from house payments at SaveWithConrad.com.